Good morning, it's your boy Renee. Cannon hit me up, hashtag Cannon Preach, all platforms. I just wanted to drop this devotional thought in your spirit this morning. It comes to us from the book of Luke, chapter 7, verses 18 through 23, where the Bible says, Then John's disciples told him about all these things. So John summoned two of his disciples and sent them to the Lord, asking, Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for someone else? When the men reached him, they said, John the Baptist sent us to ask you, Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for someone else? At that time, Jesus healed many people of diseases, plagues, and evil spirits, and he granted sight to many blind people. He replied to them, Go and report to John the things you have seen and heard. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, those with skin diseases are healed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor are told the good news. And anyone who is not offended because of me is blessed. And in this devotion, we find ourselves examining John the Baptist. And John the Baptist happens to be the most prolific or prominent prophet in all of Israelite history. Yet, despite the prestige that's attached to his name or reputation, he now finds himself stripped of his dignity. He's trapped in a dungeon where he now awaits his execution because he has been sentenced to death by Herod. And it's from his prison, or from his jail cell rather, that John begins to reflect on his life and the dedication that he's had to Jesus. For because of his dedication, he had missed out on many of life's luxuries. He didn't go off and pursue a career that would make him affluent, but he preached in the wilderness. He didn't wear fine apparel, but he was clothed in camel's hair. He didn't eat gourmet meals, but he was known to dine upon wild locusts and honey. All of these things he has sacrificed for Jesus, yet the irony of it is he doesn't find himself in a condition he would describe as being blessed, but rather he's on death row. And to make matters worse, when his disciples come to visit him, they keep telling him of all the miracles that Jesus has worked, how he has cast out unclean spirits and demons, how he caused the paralytic to stand, how he healed the man's withered hand, how he healed the sickness of the centurion's servant, and how he resurrected the widow of Nain's son from death. They told John all of these things. And when John heard them, I have no doubt that he began to question what was going on for himself. I can see him there in that jail cell saying, if Jesus is doing all these things for those people, then why isn't he blessing me? Because I have served him all of these years. I have given up all of these things. Why isn't he blessing me or honoring me for the sacrifices that I have made? So he tells his disciples, he says, I want you to go to Jesus, and I want you to ask him, is he the one, or should we look for another? Now, the disciples make it to Jesus and they ask him the question. And the Bible says that Jesus doesn't even respond to them. But instead of responding, he just begins to heal even more people. He heals them of their infirmities, of their plagues, and he casts out the evil spirits among them. And then he turns to the disciples and says to them, go your way, or go back to John and tell him what you have seen and what you have heard. He says, tell him how the blind men have received their sight, how the lame have been caused to walk, how the lepers are cleansed, how the deaf hear, how the dead is raised, and how the poor receive the gospel. He says, tell them all the things that I have done. And this is where we get into peace right now. For sometimes you will find yourself in your own personal prison, and you'll feel like God is blessing everybody but you. And in order to have peace within that circumstance, you've got to learn to rejoice for the things he's doing in everybody else's life. That's what he said to John. He's saying, John, I know you are in prison, but you should believe that I am because of what I'm doing for other people. You need to learn to rejoice for what God is doing in other people's lives. That will bring you peace. Peace.